Welcome to Stories That Stick, a podcast series about the stories that shape us.
Love the title, hate the script. I was like, is this man okay?
Listeners, before we begin, please know that we start all our conversations with death, because we believe that death truly makes us reflect about the life we live, and we aim, in our own little way, to share the life of our guest. And in today's episode, we have Joy Gharoro-Akpotojor, a screenwriter and film producer who's best known for producing award-winning short called Haircut and soon-to-be-released feature film Blue Story, which is directed by Rapman. That being said, we hope you enjoy today's episode. Well, how I like to start off is with death.
Yep, nice, happy, cheery topics.
I'm not saying that this is going to happen in touch wood, it doesn't happen anytime soon, but if you did die, how would you feel?
I'm trying to figure out how honest I should be.
I need you to be.
How honest I should be. So,
I can always edit anything out you don't want.
It doesn't matter. So at 16, I tried to commit suicide, and which is right after my dad died, and I was like so confused and so lost in the world, and there's a lot of other stuff that factored into it. And I remember, like, I just did it. Like, I didn't care about anything, anyone. I just, took this overdose. I mean, I laugh about it now because looking back, the pills I took were like, they were giving like a tummy ache, like at best. But at the time, I was fully prepared to go. And, when I look back, I'm like, so happy I didn't, because the life I live now is rich and full. And there are times when I do sort of like still battle with like depression, or I still think about what death might be like. And then I always think about what my legacy is. And I feel like I haven't yet left the legacy that I want to leave. Then I'm like, well, I can't really go yet, can I? Because I still got things to do. But even in saying that, like, death does scare me, but at the same time, I think, like, because I believe we don't really die. I'm going to quote Person of Interest because, it's also an important show. And it's the final episode when, everyone's dying and stuff. And there was the whole quote of, like, what happens when you die? Like, it was like everyone dies alone. But if you mean something to someone, if you've touched someone in some way, then you don't really die. Like, people still have you.
Exactly. And that's actually really the premise of why I started this new podcast. Because I genuinely do feel like it's the stories that matter.
Yeah, 100%.
So let's speak about your legacy. And I want to start by going into your first decade. Any fun stories, memories, books, anything that you recall? And if you need help, not that you do, that you definitely wrote something about a magical fish.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I was young, we used to go to my dad's village, Orogu, which is in Warri. There was a well, and they used to say, like, a big fish lives down there. Big magical fish. It's been there for hundreds of years. Obviously, as a kid, you try and look down at the well, but you just see bare darkness in it because, it's the well. And sometimes your mind plays tricks and you start hearing things and you're like, oh, there's a fish down there, innit? And that's always been with me. And more recently, I asked my mum, I was like, what about this fish? And she was like, it's what they believe in. What happened was because years and years and years ago, they actually threw a fish down there, like a big one. But she's like, it's not there anymore now because the well has even dried up, but they want to believe it's there, so it's there. I was like, oh, okay. And I felt so disappointed, because I genuinely believed there was a big magical fish down there. And I think I told a few people when I gone back to school, I was like, oh yeah, there's a big fish, and it's just in the world, been there for hundreds of years, and it's got magic.
So what was childhood like, just genuinely?
I read a lot of books when I was younger.
Did you?
Yeah, I read loads. My mother used to say, like, like I wouldn't go to sleep, I would just be reading. And then I think that's kind of where me being a storyteller also comes from. But I used to love reading books.
But what books were you reading?
Crime books.
At that age?
Yeah.
This is 0 to 10.
I love crime books.
Plus, everyone's trying to colour in between the
Um,
lines.
My dear, I'm advanced, isn't it? My brain has left the rest of them behind.
That's interesting.
But like, I used to love reading crime books, and what's that book called? Goosebumps.
Yes.
I used to love reading Goosebumps. So I love reading stuff that was just kind of that told you what people were. Crime tells you what people are like, and horror because it tells you about people's fears. So crime is about what we really want to do, and horror is about what we're really scared of.
Interesting.
So,
What were you scared of as a child?
yeah. I don't know, I do know. My parents,
Your parents,
innit? My parents scared me. It was like people are scared of ghosts and like witches. My parents were scary,
Were they quite harsh disciplinarians?
My mum was, my dad wasn't. No, my dad was harsh to my brothers, but I'm the only girl. So to me, it was just like, oh, my daughter, my father.
And you're the youngest as well.
I'm the youngest as well. My mum was like, she took no prisoners. No, she doesn't care who you are, where you are. Ha.
So let's fast forward to your next decade. Were there any stories that you read? Any fun memories?
There were a lot of stuff because I was in boarding school.
Oh, okay.
So, like things go down in boarding school. A lot of stuff goes down in boarding school.
Forget things go down in the DM.
You know what I mean? Welcome to boarding school, because it was hilarious. But at the same time, the good thing about boarding school is like, I think most people who go to boarding school, especially if you're from a culture that is outside of the West, we all have similar stories in that, oh yeah, the ghost here, the ghost there, or like this or that is happening. My thing was the tree spirits. There was this whole thing at night where like when we're all asleep, they would all come out of the tree and have a meeting. And also because at the time, when we're having the stories, so our like dorm teacher, she used to say in the morning that students kept on throwing stones at her door at night. And everyone was like, oh, asleep, what are you talking about? Because she would come out and look, but there's no one there, innit? And you used to hear all this creaking and stuff in like the common there and then like the dorm, like where they had tables. Just like the wood starts to creak. And you're like, but ain't no one sitting there, innit? So how is it creaking? Then it was like, oh, like that's when the spirits come out. They're all going for their meetings. So all the creaking and stuff you hear is like, they're all out, innit? It's midnight, because the sound, for some reason, you only hear it at midnight, 1 a.m. Like you don't hear it at like 2 p.m. Just like, yeah.
I love that. I love it. So you brought that into the tree spirits, having a congregational meeting about how to...
I don't know what they're talking about. They just be meeting and stuff. I don't know. They just be like hanging out and having a barbecue at night. I don't even know. But it's kind of like...
Did that make you guys misbehave, or was it just a part of a norm? So
it was a norm, man. It was just like...
So having supernaturals around you isn't...
Yeah, because it's nighttime.
Scary.
Like, you're minding your own business. You're sleeping and they're doing their thing. It's not your business.
So you can coexist without it being an issue.
Yeah, I mean, bearing in mind, like, we also believe we had witches in our midst. So, but there was one girl who was like, oh, yeah, I'm a witch in it. And we were like, oh, man, can't mess with her. She's part of the coven.
You said books has always been really quite crucial to your understanding of the world and understanding of who you are as a person. Were there any specific books possibly within this decade that really resonated? And
No,
why?
I started writing actually during this time. I started writing stories, one of which got me in trouble.
Okay.
It was called LA Confidential.
LA Confidential.
And that was before I knew there was a damn film, by the way. So like, I feel like they stole my idea. I don't know how they got my idea. They got into my head and took it. Because I was in boarding school. So I didn't know nothing about no other LA Confidential for what I wrote. But no, I actually wrote like, it was a detective, like random book. And I must have been about 12 or something, 12, 13, something like that. And I remember I wrote this story, and it must have gone around and people read it. And they were like, this is decent, but also it had like sex scenes in it as well, yeah.
At the age of 12, 13. Amazing.
Which person at that age just said, but I don't think they were that explicit. But
So what did you know of sex at that age?
I mean,
or did you? Were you starting to grow?
You know what you see on TV, but also I was 12 and I was kind of mature, and it's Nigeria. I know Nigerian men, like they don't. they look at you and they look like, oh, you're a woman. They don't care about like. I used to get grown men just going, "Hey, darling, hey, baby," and you're like, "I'm a child." But also, when you go to boarding school, you have different ages, so you learn things very quickly. For me, I knew I was bisexual at least when I was 11. I think as kids, you kind of pick up things so quickly. So for me, like when I wrote what I wrote, I knew what sex was. I had an idea of it. That's what I wrote in it. And then I remember a teacher got hold of the book.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how was this circulated? There's no
'Cause
print at the time.
listen, my hand on paper, in it.
Wow,
And like those I used to have notebooks. I filled out 2 notebooks and
amazing.
and taped them together, and it went around. And a teacher got hold of it, and she called me. She was like, "I read your book. It's very explicit in the sex scene." She was like, "You've done this before." I said, "No, auntie, I didn't do anything. I never done it before in my life. Never in my. I just hear something and I put it down on paper." Anyway, she took the book. I never saw her again. I don't know what she did with the book, but she took it. She's like, "I'm going to hold on to it." I said, "Okay," but I didn't do nothing.
Did she compliment you? Did anyone like sort of see this as a talent of yours?
But a few people who read it were like, "It's good," but that was the next time that I really wrote again. So I felt like I started doing more. I used to go to the library a lot more, but I did a bit more just reading encyclopedias.
Really?
Yeah, I remember reading the dictionary because I wanted to learn more words. But
Why? Why is that? Did you feel that you weren't?
No,
Why?
I just liked words.
Well, it's almost a given now, knowing what it is you do for a living, that you almost can't do anything but what you do for a living.
Yeah, exactly. Stories are the thing.
Yeah.
But that was like, I think that time was I just started writing stories, and I started to write a lot of poetry at the time as well. Did a lot of poetry.
You really wanted to express yourself.
Yeah, because writing was the only way I knew how to talk about my emotions.
Right.
And it was something in my A-level, when I was in A-levels, English lit. God, I forgot her name now, which is so bad. But my teacher at the time, we had like a thing to do exercise. And she came in, she gave everyone their papers, their marks. And then when it came to me, she put no mark on it. And she was like, "Joy, you can do better than this. You're a very expressive writer. Like, this isn't expressive enough. Like you're very emotive." And then one of the girls was like, "Miss, what do you mean she got no mark? Why is she getting no mark? Was it that bad yet?" Right, was that bad, you know?
What's interesting is you started with this decade being in boarding school in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But you finished the decade being in the English system.
Yeah.
Education.
So I finished and I came here and did my A-levels.
So here we are, we're officially in this decade. But if we then move on to your 3rd decade, so now we're looking at age 20 to 30, this is where I guess one would hope, and this is always a journey and it's going to be a continuous journey, but one would hope you're starting to understand yourself a lot better. And career-wise now, you're starting to understand what paths you're going to take. What did you study knowingly or hopingly, not hopefully, that's not even a word, but what did you study in hope to become this scriptwriter, screenwriter, producer, film industry?
My first degree was film studies. I didn't really understand what film studies was. I mean, it's still helping me now, but it was more theoretical. Queen Mary University. There was a bit of practical in it, and then the teacher that I had there, Eugene Doyen, he was amazing. And
I love that. There's always one teacher.
There's always one teacher, and
always one teacher.
I remember, like, I wrote a script here, gave it to him. I was like, "Yes, bangs in it." It was an amazing story. He looked at me, he read it, and he goes to me, "Love the title, hate the script." And I was like, is this man okay? But I remember, like, he said to me, he's like, "Joy, I'm only being honest with you now and doing it this way because I can see you really want to do this. So I'm preparing you for the industry because this is how it is. People are just honest and blunt. They don't have time to sugarcoat things." I feel like he knew I was gay before, like, I told anyone, because he gave me, like, he was, "Oh, go read this book." It was Sarah Waters' Tipping the Velvet, which is just like a gay ass book. And I was like, "What the fuck am I reading this for?" I went reading. I was like, "Oh shit, they're lesbians." I was like, does he know I was anything? But and I remember, like, he used to read my scripts and just give me advice. I think he was one of those people who kind of maybe go, okay, cool, I can do this. And then when I applied for my MA, he read the script that I used to apply for that, which then got me into my MA for screenwriting, which is what I really wanted to do.
Right.
But, after I finished university, I still kind of like, I tried to do a bit of like directing, my own stuff. Didn't go so well. And then a friend at the time said to me, oh, I've got a friend who wants to make a film. Do you mind producing it for him? He's got the money. I was like, yeah, cool, whatever. So I did it for him. And I was like, oh, I'm actually good at this. So that's how I just started to produce off the back of that.
Right.
Christine Vachon, which is like an amazing producer and somebody who I think inspired me to get into producing, because she has this amazing book that I read called The Secular Life, which is basically a memoir of her producing as an independent producer. But, she's independent, she's gay. And I remember reading it going, okay, that's what I want to do. Like, that's the thing. That's it right there. But for me as a producer now, having both screenwriting and producing skills, for me, it's so good because I can look at stories differently and I can talk to writers differently and directors in a way where structurally we're looking at what they're trying to do and what they're trying to say,
I hear that.
But also during that time, it was like, trying to find random producing work, also still working like a 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. job. So I could then go off and produce stuff afterwards. But I also need to have a life in it because I'm young and I'm just exploring the gay scene in my early 20s. And I was like, oh my God, it's Soho. So I used to do that thing of like, I'll be in GAY from like 5 to like 10 p.m., 11 p.m., living my best life. And then I would get up at like 5 to go to work at 6. And then finish at 2:30 and sometimes go off and do some producing stuff and then later on just like go out and be gay again.
This is a lovely way to tie this up. When it comes down to identity, especially your sexual identity, you were pretty much coming to terms with it. And are there any books or was there any books that...
Oh no, I couldn't find any books. Hence why like now the kind of films I want to make are like Black, queer and female focused. Because remember there was a time, like this is probably when I was about 19, 20. I was literally like, I need to find books with other Black women who have just come out. And a lot of other Black lesbians who know this, who are my age too, older. But there was a book that came out time ago. It was called Does Your Mama Know? But it was Black Americans who were writing about their experiences of coming out to their parents, be them American and be them Jamaican. I could relate to a lot of those experiences, but I couldn't find anything here. I mean, I think there was a couple of things that I found, but they weren't the same. They weren't telling me about, okay, that is what is going to happen because you're so Black and Nigerian and you came out timid. I think there's a few books that have come out now that are trying to tackle that, but I think it's only in the past like 6 years that actually more recently the past like 2 years that I've really just kind of come to terms, okay, Joy, you're gay, you're Nigerian, and your mother knows. Like she's known since I was 25.
Right.
But now it's like, now I feel like, because the older you get, you're like, you want to have a very open and free life where you don't want to deal with like the whole, oh, you're gay, what will I tell the auntie? What will I tell this person? And children, uncle, as if you cannot no more have children for some unknown reason. What's going to happen? I'm the marriage, I can't even, all of this and that. And you kind of get to the point where, for me, now I'm at a point where I'm like, even with my brothers, I'm like, here's what's happening in my life. If you can't deal with it, that's for, it's for you to handle. Like, but I've come to peace. This is who I am now. So it's like for my older brother, it's that thing of, and I told him I had a partner. He was like, I see. I was like, only see, nothing else to say. And I think they still got to figure it out for themselves. And you kind of realize that for other people, it's just their own conditioning.
It's really interesting because it is a conditioning.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Social Experiment in which where it was a vox pop went on the street and asked, so at what age do you think homosexuals come out? And, people just give some arbitrary number, maybe 12, 13 and stuff. And they're like, okay. And at what age do you think heterosexuals have to come out? It stumped them.
Yeah.
And that's the very premise. Is like, well, no, you just know you are what you are. And it's this conditioning aspect that I find interesting because Many of us are conditioned in a heteronormative narrative.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's difficult.
Yeah, it's heteronormative, it's very patriarchal, it's very kind of like, there are all these things that you have to do because that's just the way society is, as opposed to for you. You know, I remember like when I was younger, my mother used to be like, oh, you have to clean the house. I have 4 older brothers. Why can't they have 2 hands and 2 legs? She's but they are men now. I said, okay, so does that stop their hands and legs from working? Probably even like, you know, like now my brothers are better cook than I am. So I'm like, so all the time that I had to cook food. And the guy is like a 5-star chef. But it was me that was making the food from the house when this guy can actually really cook. Wow.
Let's actually bring it to the present. You are a producer for now.
Mm-hmm. And a writer.
Yeah. Tell us what you're up to.
Making films, innit?
I get that, but I mean, like, you know, this is where you puff up your chest. Accolades. I could talk about Blue Stories.
Yeah,
I could talk, you know.
Yeah. I mean, when's this coming out though, innit?
Don't worry about that, Joe. Do you know what I mean? Jeez. Don't worry about that. It's coming. Yeah, what would you like to say?
So I've just done like Blue Story, which is obviously the biggest thing that I've done. It's Paramount, it's BBC Films. It's huge. Like, you know, honestly, a year ago, I didn't think this was going to happen. Like I'm making my own debut feature as a writer. And then October just went mad. No, actually, no, July this time. Yeah, it was July this time last year where like I was sitting in, oh my God, what's that place in Stoke Newton? It's banging Jamaican food.
Okay, I forget it, but yeah.
But anyway, it's banging food. Me and my mate was sitting down after, we're just sitting down and we're eating, we're talking. I got an email, like DJ Films. And I was like, looked at it go, and it just said, hi Joy, it's Damien, here's my CV. I've got a project you want to work on. Literally, just like a link to his website. I was just there going, what is this? No, I didn't even look at it. I went to my friend, some guy just named Damien Jones. I thought was like, are you mad? Open that email. I was like, who's Damien again? I thought, don't you know who Damien is? So I opened the email, clicked on the link. I was like, rah. Amanda, an Iron Lady, you know, adulthood, kidhood, all the hoods. I'm Fab, you know, Belle. I was like, okay. And so I thought, and Damien's on it, you know, he don't waste no time. So I was like, I'm interested. He was like, cool, can you talk in like 5 minutes? And I thought was like, answer the phone call. So yeah, literally like, and that was it. That day, I spoke to him. I watched Rapman's Shiro story and I read the script.
For the record, Rapman is the director of this.
He's the director of Blue Story. Yeah. And he uses music and drama to make his thing work. And you can check him out on YouTube, you know. And then, the following week, you know, I'm at BBC Films. I'm at Sony. I'm at Lionsgate. We're having meetings with people that I promise you in my life at the time I never thought would be possible. So, you know, like...
But it is possible.
Yeah.
But how was it possible for you?
Honestly, I just worked. I was just more focused on just doing the work. I wasn't like, you know, obviously everyone wants to get to the place where where life is easy and you're making the things you want to make. I was just kind of like, this is my brand, this is what I want to do. And Kobe, who's an amazing filmmaker as well, he wanted to do a feature, and I was like, no, let's do a short. Let's do one more short before you do your feature. And he had a great short called Haircut, which we did for Film London Calling Plus. And it was good, but I think neither was expected to do what it did. Like, it opened so many doors for both of us that we were kind of like, raw, like we weren't expecting it at all. And then so off the back of that, an agent, independent Anwar, who's also Rapman's agent, you know, he went to Damon, talk to Joy, she did this film. And literally that was it. So I think off the back of all these things and just...
Your portfolio started to speak for itself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think working on this one with Paramount and Blue Stories and BBC Films was also a really eye-opening experience for me to understand the kind of films I want to make and how I want to make the films. And so now I feel moving forward, my ambition has grown. I was talking to his producer, Rosa Ratab, you know, and she said, like, as people of color, we never have ambition. Like, we never think we can do A, B, C, D. And she was like, you have to think bigger. You can't think that is not for you because, you know, only white people get that. Yeah, there's structural racism, but she's like, you still have to believe that you can go beyond that. And I think, you know, for me now, when I look at the the things that I'm trying to do, my next slate of projects, I'm thinking more about how do I scale up now and how do I go beyond 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, and but still doing it in a way whereby I'm not sucked into Hollywood because I don't particularly enjoy it. Because I love being creative, I love being a storyteller, I love all those things, and I want to find a way to like maintain that but still create just amazing work.
No, I'm with you, Joy, and I think we're definitely going to have to look out for your next production.
Yeah.
So we started about death. What would you take with you to the afterlife if you believe there's an afterlife?
Oh man. I think poetry. Sounds corny, innit?
Yeah,
But
no.
poetry, like there's something.
Anyone's in particular?
No, I mean, not really. Just different poets. It's like take different bits of love, anger, death, desire, all of it. And good poetry really makes you feel. And I think my thing with poetry is that you take good poetry and you forever have the feeling of life with you. No matter where you are, you just have the feeling of life.
Amazing. I love that. It's been an absolute pleasure. I want those who are listening to also love you.
Love me.
So how can we love you on the World Wide Web or wherever?
Go to my Twitter account
Okay.
at Joy Gharoro, JoyGharoro. Yo. And that's it really.
Well, thanks very much for joining us on Stories That Stick.
Thanks for having me.
And guys, you know how we do with the rest. Rate, review, share,
Subscribe.
Catch you on another episode. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Today's episode was produced by Ade Bambala. Sound designed by Chris Arise. And if you'd like to be featured on Stories That Stick, then please do get in touch. Hey guys, Joy mentioned suicide, and if you yourself potentially might be suffering from any mental health related issues, then we highly recommend that you seek some support and help. And here are just a few of the organizations that we believe might be able to help you. If you visit Samaritans, they offer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week support service, and you can call them free on 116-123, and you can also email them on jo@samaritans.org. We also recommend Calm, which is Campaign Against Living Miserably. They have a helpline from 5 p.m. to midnight and a web chat to support men. And last but not least, we also recommend Papyrus. Papyrus is spelled Papyrus. You can call the Hopeline UK number on 0800 068 4141. Alternatively, you can text 07786 209697. And you can email Pat, P-A-T, at papyrus-uk.org. Once again, guys, thanks very much for listening. And please do seek any support you can. Take care. Blacticulate Productions.